When you're staring at a cluttered desk and thinking about adding another box to the mix, the first question is always the same. Will this actually make my work easier, or am I just buying another piece of hardware that ends up gathering dust? That hesitation is real, especially with mini PCs that promise desktop-class power in a footprint the size of a paperback. I'm going to walk through what matters day to day, not just what the brochure says, so you can decide if the GEEKOM A9 Max is the right fit for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest draw of any mini PC is space. The A9 Max sits on a desk about the size of a coffee mug, which instantly frees up room for a monitor, notebooks, or even a small plant. That's a practical win for anyone working from a tight home office, a shared workspace, or a bedroom setup where a traditional tower would dominate the surface. But the small size also means you have to be realistic about what you can plug in. The unit offers a decent mix of ports: USB-C, a couple of USB-A, HDMI, and Ethernet, enough for a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and a wired network cable, but you won't find the luxury of multiple Thunderbolt lanes or a dedicated GPU output. If your workflow relies on several external drives, a drawing tablet, and a high-refresh monitor all at once, you might need a USB hub, which adds another layer of complexity. Thermal performance is another concern that often gets swept under the rug. Because the A9 Max is a compact chassis, its cooling solution has to work harder to keep temperatures down during prolonged tasks. In real-world use, I've seen it handle long AI model fine-tuning sessions, the sort of workload that can push a laptop's fans into a whine without the noise spiking into an irritating high-pitched whine. The fan stays at a low, almost inaudible hum most of the time, but if you push the CPU to 100% for an hour straight, you'll notice a gradual increase in volume. It's not unbearable, but it's something to keep in mind if you need absolute silence for recording or focused work. Memory and storage are already set at 32 GB of DDR5 RAM, which feels generous for most productivity tasks, from running multiple browser tabs with heavy sites to handling spreadsheet crunches and even light photo editing. The DDR5 platform gives you that extra bandwidth, but the real question is whether you'll ever need to upgrade. The A9 Max is not designed for user-replaceable RAM, it's soldered onto the board. If you anticipate needing more than 32 GB down the line, you'll have to look elsewhere. Storage, on the other hand, is a standard M.2 slot, so swapping in a larger SSD is straightforward, a nice nod to future-proofing for those who like to keep a growing library of files close at hand. Now, let's talk about the kind of work this machine actually shines on. Because it's powered by an AMD Ryzen AI9HX470, it delivers a solid mix of CPU cores and AI acceleration. For everyday office duties, email, document editing, video conferencing, it feels snappy, launching apps in a flash and handling multitasking without the hiccups you sometimes see on lower-end laptops. If you dabble in light creative work, like stitching together short videos, applying Photoshop filters, or running modest machine learning scripts, the AI-specific cores give you a modest boost that you wouldn't get from a plain Intel NUC. It's not a replacement for a full-blown desktop workstation, but for a freelance writer who occasionally does a quick data visualization or a graphic designer who mainly works with 2D assets, the performance-to-size ratio is compelling. Where the A9 Max starts to hit its limits is in anything that leans heavily on GPU horsepower. There's no dedicated graphics card, so rendering 3D models, doing high-resolution video encoding, or training large neural networks will quickly expose the integrated graphics ceiling. If you need to run Unreal Engine or Adobe Premiere Pro at 4K with multiple effects, you'll feel the strain. In those scenarios, a traditional tower with a discrete GPU or a high-end laptop that can house a mobile GPU will be more appropriate. Likewise, gamers looking for a smooth experience beyond indie titles will find the integrated graphics underwhelming. Upgrade ease beyond the SSD is limited. The chassis is sealed enough that opening it isn't a daily ritual, but you can still replace the storage without voiding the warranty. However, there's no room for an extra SSD or a second M.2 slot, and the Wi-Fi module is also soldered. For most users, that won't be a deal-breaker, but power users who like to tinker might feel constrained. Value for money is where the A9 Max really finds its sweet spot. At its price point, you're getting a Reditogo machine with a high-capacity DDR5 kit already installed, which saves you the hassle of buying RAM separately, something that can add a few $100s to a DIY build. Compare that to buying a comparable laptop that offers similar CPU performance but adds a